Hey man, this is Simon D. Nova, guilty as charged, but I'm all three, all two, Mike Bucci too, I'm all three, and you are listening to another wrestling podcast. That's actually the name of it, another wrestling podcast.
It's time for another wrestling podcast with your hosts, Steve Credo and Jonathan Benjamin.
We are coming in live from Wrestling Spectacular 3D in Middletown, New York, guys. And we are missing right now Jonathan Benjamin, who's MIA somewhere in West Virginia. He will not be here today, but I'm gonna do what I can. I'm gonna do what I can. We are joined though with none other than Joel.
It is I, the lyrical miracle, the cunning linguist, the sexual, intellectual, and the quintessential stud muffin, Joel. The fans come and the girls go down when I come to Middletown, and you wouldn't believe the sounds when they take me home after meeting me at the fairgrounds. Gertner on another wrestling podcast, but it isn't just another. And if you don't believe me, ask my two favorite listeners, your sister and your mother. Gertner, keep listening and have yourself an eargasm.
Wow. I don't think anybody could ever do that kind of intro ever in the history of shows or live shows. Joel, wow. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, Joel. First is first. I mean, what an intro. I think the fans listening right now, just to give them a little bit about yourself. I mean, how did you get into this crazy business of pro wrestling?
Yeah, I've been a fan of pro wrestling for about 30 years or so now, ever since I was about 8 or 9. That would put it back to like 83, maybe 84, when everything in my neck of the woods, I'm from Brooklyn, so things obviously exploded in early 84, and everything started going from the WWF being regional to getting syndication and being a national company. So that's around the time that I started watching, and as a teenager and kind of being on the fringes of the industry and of the business by being a tape trader, a videotape trader, which is something that was a thing back then. It existed, different territories, different companies, a whole lot of different international footage and footage spanning different decades and generations historically. So I had a lot of that stuff in the pre-DVD days on videotape with a collection of hundreds and hundreds of tapes. So I was doing that, and as a tape trader and also as an avid fan and somebody who is looking to get into the business as talent, kind of as a manager or ring announcer, whatever the case might be, I would come to conventions and autograph signings, events just like this one here in Middletown at the fairgrounds. I would go to, the Weekend of Champions at the Ramada by LaGuardia Airport, the UWF Fan Expo, also in that neck of the woods. Stuff that was promoted by John Arezzi, local radio show, a guy that co-hosted a show with Vince Russo, where Vince Russo got his start in the business, all in the early 90s. So it was then, started to get the Wrestling Observer newsletter in 89. And from there, just kept going and going, meeting people, getting involved in the wrestling school scene with the Lower East Side Wrestling Gym in the city, and then the independent circuit. And that's where I basically, built up enough experience, made enough connections, introduced myself to Paul Heyman, and got the gig with ECW. So it just kind of snowballed. It was just a whole bunch of forward progress and just always expanding on everything that I had done to date.
Wow. incredible history, incredible time. Now, for the fans listening out there now, too, what they don't know is that this weekend, 19 years ago, you, Bully Ray, and I believe Steve Austin all debuted in Middletown, New York, 19 years ago, right?
Yeah, they had done a show in Middletown maybe 2 months or so before that during the summer. I want to say July of 95. They had done a show, I think, here at the fairgrounds in Middletown, and I wasn't with the company yet, but around August or September, I got hired, and my first show was September 23rd of 95. I debuted ring announcing, timekeeping the first half of the show, and then replacing the ring announcer who I think got bumped. So I ring announced the second half of the show. Bubba Ray wasn't part of the Dudleys yet. It was his first night in, so he started as Mongo. On the Independents, he had been Mongo Vile. So he was Mongo, a bodyguard for Fonzie, for Bill Alfonso. And then it was also the debut of superstar Steve Austin, coming in fresh from having been released a bit previous to that from WCW. So the three of us started at a venue called Sportland Cafe. Not sure if it's still standing or not, but that was September 23rd of 95. So figure Tuesday will be the 19th anniversary of all three of our ECW debuts right here.
Wow. Well, incredible history right here in Middletown, New York, and that's where we're at. We're at Wrestling Spectacular 3D today, where you can meet every and any superstars of yesterday today, definitely the Dudley Boys, and we have with us none other than Joel Gertner, part of a big history of the Dudley Boys. But Joel, what have you been up to these days? Is there anything you let the fans know what's going on?
Yeah, doing things like this, autograph signings, conventions, working a lot of live events, wrestling shows, IPPVs, stuff for DVD release. And when I go to a different town that I'm not always in addition to trying to do the autograph signing and the show itself, what I also do earlier in the day, I've actually done one so far, the Monster Factory in South Jersey near Philly, and I'm doing another one this coming Saturday, the 27th, in Miami when I'm there for Ronin Pro Wrestling. We're going to be at the Airport Convention Center. And what I'm doing is a seminar. It's going to be from 11 to 3 this coming Saturday, the 27th, in Miami. And what I'm basically doing is everything but the wrestling. So, not the kind of seminar that is taught by, one of these guys who's, poetry in motion between the ropes and kind of showing you, the ins and outs of the fundamentals and the basics and giving you everything in-ring psychology and everything you need to learn or to tweak to be a better in-ring performer. But obviously, I'm not the right person to teach that. So what I do in my seminar is everything but that. It's the outside the ring stuff. It is, outside the ring psychology. It's a lot of promos. There's a promo workshop for sure, as well as writing and character development, working for TV, direction and production, and working alongside a TV war truck and production truck, because working for TV is a lot different from working a house show style. And basically, things along those lines. Also things like just wrestling culture, locker room culture, and just how to make yourself a better performer when the in-ring and between the ropes wrestling itself is not necessarily, the main thing that you bring to the table. So it's how to make a successful career in wrestling by doing everything but the wrestling. And we touch on a little bit of all that in a 4-hour workshop, a 4-hour seminar. The first one in Philly went great, and I really can't wait for Miami this coming Saturday morning.
All right, everybody listening right now, that we have a live chat going on too on Mixlr.com/Another Wrestling Podcast, and right now we're being asked from one of our friends, Stephen Adjemi, and he wants to know, Joel, did you ever get a call from WWE, or have you had any desire to head up there to the WWE?
Well, I worked the ECW One Night Stand. Okay. The first one, the pay-per-view in 2005. So I worked on that show. As far as anything beyond that, at the time, I think, they've gone to a PG rating, right? So I think a lot of the stuff that I'm most known for historically throughout my career, the ECW stuff, the Dudley stuff, I think a lot of that wouldn't really fly as far as what they're trying to do. Obviously, I can do a lot more than that, and I can certainly adapt my style. And since I started as a performer in the wrestling business in 91, about 23 years ago, I've done a number of different characters. I started out as Joey Jaguar and was kind of somewhat of a prototypical, heel punk, snot-nosed, brat kid, trust fund baby, silver spoon in his mouth, the whole 9 yards. And could obviously, do a variation on a theme of that, or really anything else. I mean, there was one time when I was staying in Nashville, working the independents down there, just to have fun and goof around. There was one day working the Nashville Fairgrounds where I went out as a raver, just as this raver dude, and I had the cargo pants, the caffeine pants on, and I came out just, like sucking on a lollipop, and I had this Tigger doll that had a string, and when I wanted advice so that I could pass advice on to the wrestler that I was managing, I would pull the string on the Tigger and get it from him and then give it to the wrestler. So a whole bunch of crazy nonsense. The Quintessential Stud Muffin is a lot of fun and obviously near and dear to my heart, but I'd hate to have anybody think, least of all myself, that that's all that I can bring to the table in the business, or that I'm a one-trick pony. So, as far as working with WWE goes, it would be great to do that full-time if it was something that was mutually beneficial, and if it was right, if it made sense, then yeah, of course I'd love to do that. But no, I just, I stay in touch with some key people there, and I, come to signings, speak to people, through email and text message and Facebook and whatnot. I would be more than happy to go there. More than anything, I really appreciate you asking. And if it's something that you'd be interested in seeing, voice your opinion, take to social media, get your view out there, and definitely, make sure you speak to the right people and try to fly it up that flagpole. And hopefully maybe with your help and the help of other like-minded individuals who agree with you, maybe I'll be there sooner than later.
All right. Well, guys, everybody who's listening in, we are going to go to a little bit of a break, but before we do, Joel's going to still be here with us all day, so feel free to tune back in, especially in the live chat. Keep those questions coming. We'll answer them. A lot of stuff's going to happen, but before we go, I'm going to leave you with one of Joel's classic promos that... you'll pretty much get the idea when we play it. So check it out, and then stay tuned. We'll be back. We're also going to have Velvet Sky, Bobby Lashley, Ezekiel Jackson, and a lot more coming up, guys. So stay tuned. Tell your friends. Tweet it. Facebook it. All that fun stuff out there, guys. So check it out, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Official distributor of ECW Home Video presents Heatwave 2000! I'm Joey Styles. And now that Styles is done boring ya, I think that I should warn ya that girls get hornier and hornier when I come to California, because I am the quintessential stud muffin, Joel. I'm California dreaming, and I leave the girlies screaming. 'Cause I'm a pussy-licking demon. With vanilla-flavored semen.
All right. Everybody tuning in live This is Steve Credo. We are from Another Wrestling Podcast. We are coming to you live from Middletown, New York. A lot of things happening today. We are Wrestling Spectacular 3D, guys. If you go to WrestlingSpectacular.com, if you're in the area, stop on by. A lot of people are here today. From view, Axel Rotten is sitting right next to me. I see Val Venus, Tony Atlas, Tyler Rex is in the house, Big Ezekiel Jackson, the Dudley Boys are here, importantly. But even more importantly is none other than Joel Gertner, who is joining us. We'll get to him in a few seconds. But guys, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, tweet out the link. We are live. Let them know what's happening, because it's a big wrestling day. And if you're watching the Night of Champions pay-per-view, what better way than to listen to Another Wrestling Podcast? And make sure you head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com to find all of our links. Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Like us, follow us, poke us, prod us, whatever you want to do. It doesn't really matter as long as you're listening to us today. We're going to get right to it, though, because our special guest sitting right next to me is none other than Joel Gertner. Joel, welcome back.
Thank you, Steve Credo.
Wow, are you having fun out here today and talking to your fans? Because everybody's been coming by. You've been meeting and greeting, almost barely kissing babies too, like the president. You've been happening today.
Yeah, it's a great time. I mean, like I said before, this is the kind of thing that when I was growing up and coming into the business, and right before that, in the latter stages of being a fan, exclusively before I was in the business. This is the kind of thing that I would be at whenever it came to my neck of the woods. So being here and representing all of the people in the business who love the great fans, who keep everything going and support us, day in, day after day, year after year, year in, year out. I love it. It's a blast.
Wow. Now, we're asking people for some questions on our site right now. If you're on Mixlr.com, Mixlr.com/Another Wrestling Podcast, you can send us your questions for Joel, and they're coming in as we speak. So I'm just going to go to one of the questions, Joel. Let's see. We got... there's a bunch of questions in here. So how about another question from Stephen Adjemi? He's asking, what is your favorite ECW pay-per-view of all time?
That's so difficult. It's kind of like choosing between children, right? Especially people ask me, what's your favorite Gertnerism of all time?
Yeah.
It's like choosing between brain children. On the pay-per-view end of things, I guess, for as cliche as it might sound, I'll go with the first one, because the first one was just it was surreal. It was just such a unique environment to see this building that before ECW ever came there in the 70s and 80s used to just be this warehouse under a trestle. Mm-hmm. It was just literally a glorified gargantuan storage bin.
Yep.
And just, over time, a bingo hall and storage for the Mummers Parade, Viking Hall, and became, with ECW, a place that, like the Dallas Sportatorium and other such places, just became, world known, known globally and renowned.
Yep.
For wrestling. And then when the pay-per-view got there for the first time, it was just surreal, because we were trying to do a pay-per-view. We were trying to do live TV, with everything that entails, between the lighting and the audio, and you got the satellite truck outside. And it just, and it was, the internet itself was in its infancy back in early 97, relatively, certainly compared to now in the mid-2010s. So the power just wasn't, what was brought in just totally was more than what the capacities and the capabilities and the functionality was for the place. And literally, from a power vantage point, from lighting and everything else, wiring, we blew the place out. I mean, we just, the transformer blew, and wow. I mean, we went on the air with a mic that was dead 15 seconds later when it absolutely needed to work for Joey to talk into it. It did. Yeah. And then at the end of the show, everything went out. But right after we went off the air,
yep.
And we almost went off the air, past the window. And back then you could get fined for it. You had to buy every second you were over. The whole thing, the wrestling gods and powers that be smiled upon us that day.
Yep.
Because it could have been a real trip to the dentist. It could have been a real horror show and a nightmare, and a headache, and it wasn't. It was actually a beautiful thing to be a part of, but just surreal because it was, just to make sure everything was going to go right, and with the insurance aspect and everything else. Like, we had dogs coming in the afternoon, 3 hours before we went live. There are dogs walking around sniffing for. It was, it was, at the ECW arena at the bingo hall, which again used to be, a warehouse. So it was just, we definitely ECW, the original ECW, we did indeed put that building on the map for all of the hyperbole, for all of the things that people might say about us, and even if 90% of it's true, the one thing that you can know and take away is that, part of the reason why I really have a soft spot in my heart for that pay-per-view is because, we put that building on the map for wrestling and for everything else as a South Philadelphia location. And as such, I think Barely Legal would be the peak of what we did amidst everything to put it on the map.
Wow, so, definitely. And now, speaking of ECW, and more specifically the Dudley Boys, how did the Dudley Boys come about? Because, you guys, you broke into ECW and you became a phenomenon. Everybody loved the Dudley Boys. They especially loved, as soon as you had that mic in your hand, to hear what you were going to say. And, you guys blew up from there. And speaking of, look at where the Dudleys are, the Team 3D and TNA right now, still on the map. But more importantly, just tell us, for the fans listening, how did that all become to be?
Dudley Boys, like everything else, I think within ECW, my character and a lot of other successful gimmicks in ECW that were innovated there, a work in progress, a constant work in progress, a constant evolution. And the same with the Dudleys, always in a state of flux, always, moving along, keeping it moving, and accentuating strengths, hiding weaknesses, just like everything else in ECW, So sure. I think with the Dudleys, it was the kind of thing where, you throw spaghetti against the wall. If it sticks, you look at it again the next week. Is it still sticking? Great. What can we do to keep it sticking? If it's falling, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Just stuff like that. So, people came into the Dudley Boys and left the Dudley Boys. It stayed fresh. At first I did all of the talking. At first when Bubba came in, he had the stuttering gimmick.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he would be talking as well alongside me. So, there would be two Dudleys working a tag match in the ring, bringing the brutality, bringing the physicality and the violence. And then when Bubba started cutting promos as well as myself, then there were two of us also on the mic, wanting to create riots verbally, right? So just everything that could be done to accentuate the heat, because it was all about the heat and it was all about us being different. The one thing that I always, and I mentioned this when I spoke with Zach Linder over at WWE.com for a list that they did 2 or 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. The one thing with ECW is that it was very much based around the music. It was very much like World Class and like Mid-South and like a lot of other territories. It was very much based in having a soundtrack, being a soundtrack, having a soundtrack. And a lot of the wrestlers in ECW got very much over because of their music. Sandman with his entrance, mm-hmm. A lot of guys identifiable, Tommy Dreamer identifiable by his music. The Gangstas, their matches were wrestling music videos.
Yeah, that was great though about ECW is that you guys were using, mainstream music in a way that fans could relate to instead of, the basic tunes that were pumping out from WWE or WCW that were made in-house, but you guys had the opportunity to use those mainstream music and to at least get over with the fans. So that was one thing that, I thought was great because I could just go listen to any CD or download the song anywhere. I don't think actually you could download it back then, but go buy the CD of your favorite band that song was actually being used for, and that was probably one of the best things that I think ECW had for me with music-wise. But
for sure, and we've heard some of it. The great wrestling music. We've been hearing some of that today as well. So with the Dudleys, the interesting part of it was that we had no music, and it was intentional. It was intentional that there would be no music. And when we would come through the curtain, it would just be the heat. It would just be the ambiance, the atmosphere, and just the inside of the building, all of the fans, just the heat percolating and just just, just the atmosphere, really. You would just hear the room, and then that would be followed by whatever that I might say on the mic or Bubba. So, that was kind of something that was different about the Dudleys. But it was just great, how it kept innovating, and then, throughout time, it came to an end when the Dudleys went to WWF, and at the same time, the decision was made that I would become the co-host with Joey Styles when we got ECW on TNN. So the whole thing lasted for quite a bit, in wrestling years. When you look at something and it lasts for 2.5, 3 years, or however long it was, that's a long time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right? Because, look, even the NWO as a faction, which was so successful on a financial level, worldwide, globally, right? After 2.5, 3 years, it's like, okay, it was great, we get it, but on to the next one. Yep. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, being with the Dudleys, I think we definitely got everything we could out of it. Every week we could have gotten out of it. Every episode we could have gotten out of it. I don't think it ever felt like it was relying on itself. I don't think it ever felt like it was resting on its laurels. I don't ever feel like we mailed it in. I felt like it was always hot, and we always were doing what we could do to make it hotter until the time came where just, organically it dissipated because, that's what needed to happen. And, but look, thankfully, we're all still, on the wrestling landscape and making an impact and making an impression and making our presences known. Team 3D has continued to be, as a tag team and as individual wrestlers, they've been sought after, and they've, been here, there, everywhere, and, on a global level, still holding it down. And, myself, as an individual, managing different people in different promotions, all over on the independent level, and, doing internet pay-per-views and DVDs, announcing and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So, the Dudleys was definitely a great launching pad, a great opportunity. And, for that, the thanks has to go, obviously, to Paul Heyman, who gave us not just the opportunity, but then within having the opportunity, he gave us kind of a level of creative control or a level of input that, even sometimes, some promoters on the independent level, unfortunately, might be, too much into, being worried as far as, micromanaging and not really, whatever it is. But, surprisingly, like, I've seen people even, not at anywhere near the level that ECW ever got to, where they don't give the talent and the performers such a level of creative input and direction into their own characters, storylines, and that kind of thing. Paul Heyman was very much, for as smart as he was and just intellectual and innovative as far as moving things along when it came to the product and the content, he was also always willing to listen to a good idea.
Yeah.
And, you have to be, because, good ideas can come from anywhere.
Sure. We got another question right before we go to another break from Wingnut274. He wants to know, who in ECW did you think was going to be a huge star that never panned out, and who became big stars that you didn't think would ever become one?
That's such an interesting question. You know what's funny? I can't think of an answer off the top of my head to either question, but while you were reading the questions, I thought of something that's like a road story that's a good answer to a hybrid of the two questions. So I'm going to totally spin both of them on their face, and I'm going to totally answer a question that you absolutely did not ask. I'm going to hybridize it into this. Who is somebody that you knew from the moment you met them when they came into ECW would be a big star?
Who's that?
And that would be, for me, there was one time we were going down the road, we were in a town, and Rhino Richards had just come into the company. And it was, I don't know, his first, second, or third weekend. He was, on the undercard, working his way up, and had just started being used by ECW after working the independents. And I had already, I guess, been a couple of years into my gig with the Dudleys or whatever, and was kind of, I guess by the time I had been, 3 years or so with ECW. And we're riding together, the two of us, in a ride with a couple of other people as well. And everybody's getting into the car. And I was about to get into the back seat, and Rhino was going to have the passenger seat, right? Of course. And he, being humble and respectful and, wrestling culture and everything, had offered to me, why don't I take the passenger seat, the front seat, and he would sit in the back.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to him that, I appreciated that, but you're the wrestler, number one. You're the wrestler. You're the one that's going to be out there with the physicality, and it's going to be your blood, sweat, and tears. I'm the one that gets to make a good living thanks to working with you and all of our colleagues, number one. Number two, I told him that also, while I do understand and I appreciate and I do respect the offer for me to sit in the front and you to sit in the back, I said, you are a future world champion, and I understand that, and I respect that, and I would never want to look back on this day years from now and think that I was the asshole that sat in the front while you sat in the back, and it came to pass. So I don't, as far as the two questions that you asked, those didn't ring a bell, but they did remind me of the story of Rhino, the man that came to be a TV champion and a world champion and then go on to the big dance. The man beast, the rookie monster, Rhino, whose matches I called with Joey on the TNN show. So, fun time when he first came in, and it reminded me of that story.
All right. Well, Joel, thanks for joining us right now. We're going to come back to you in a little bit. But, guys, if you're tuning in right now, don't forget, head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. Check out the links. Like it. We will be here till 3 o'clock in Middletown, New York. So a lot of things are happening. We're also going to be joined by Velvet Sky, Bobby Lashley, and Ezekiel Jackson. So stay tuned for those interviews, which we will play. But until then, we have another famous Joel Gertner appearance from Heatwave 99. Check it out.
Why go to the movies when you can stay home and see me, the one the ladies call Big Daddy, the one who already slept with the general's daughter, and the one who truly knows how to inspect her gadget? I am dripping with sarcasm as your girlfriend is dripping from orgasm, for I am the quintessential stud muffin and a goodness gracious, great balls of fire, goddamn handsome man, Joel. Whether the ladies are home or here in Dayton, they're watching me and masturbating Gertner. Interrupted by your applause, I was about to announce my colleague, my comrade, and my co-conspirator, the only man with the signs for the 1 and 999s, Sign Guy Dudley! As the two of us cordially and collectively introduce to you the team that gets more ass than the toilet seat at the proctologist's office. They are the ruling, reigning, and record-shattering. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not even 5, but Sign Guy. What's the name of that song that we were singing in the limo earlier? That's right, 8675309 6 Time ECW Tag Team Champions of the World, Bubba Ray and Devon, the Dudley Boys!
All right, guys, we're back live from Middletown, New York. We are at Wrestling Spectacular 3D. It's going great. I'm joined with Joel Gertner, who's at our table today. We're speaking with him, talking about everything and anything. Joel Gertner from ECW, Then and Now. We'll be talking to him in a few minutes, but guys, once again, check out anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. We're on there. We're streaming the show live today, and you'll be able to download it later on, either tonight or tomorrow, in case you missed it. So if you're tuning in now, don't fear. If you missed something, we'll be able to hear it again later on. But Joel, welcome back. Welcome.
Thank you.
But Joel, we're talking ECW. We talked Dudley Boys. Let's talk a little bit about you. You have nicknames such as the Quintessential Stud Muffin, the Lyrical Miracle, the Sexual Intellectual. How did these come to be? Were you sitting in a room one day and thinking like, wow, this is a great nickname? Or what happened? What's the story behind it?
Quintessential Stud Muffin. The nickname itself was given to me by Paul. The nickname is an homage to Austin Idol, who he managed early on in his career when he was somewhere around the same age that I was when I came into ECW. We mentioned that I started here in Middletown in September of 1995. That first show where me and Bubba and Steve Austin all debuted, that was 3 days after my 20th birthday. When he was in his late teens, early 20s, however old, he was managing Austin Idol, and Austin Idol's nickname was the Universal Heartthrob. So as an homage to the Universal Heartthrob, I was the Quintessential Stud Muffin. From there, I just took the ball and had the creative input and ability to just come up with my own variations on themes and embellish upon it and run with it. So the Lyrical Miracle, the Sexual Intellectual, the Cunning Linguist, stuff like that, and all of the longer ones as well, all of the more verbose and poetic and that kind of thing, the Gertnerisms, the limericks, all of that was just a play off of that.
All right, and now people know you from wearing a jacket with no shirt and also a neck brace. How did this costume or outfit or whatever you want to call it came to be? I mean, is there a little story behind that?
Yeah, the jacket with no shirt was chosen just as much for effective character development and portrayal of my gimmick as it was just logistically from a function standpoint and a form standpoint. It was blazing hot one day in the middle of the summer in 96, June, July 96. It was really, really hot at a show that we did in Reading, Pennsylvania, in a barn or a silo, in a building with little or no air conditioning, and it was at least 100 degrees. Probably hotter than that because the ECW arena was hot when it was hot in its own right, so it was worse than that for sure. So I figured if my character was who he was and if my job and my end game and my goal was to be a certain character, I figured I could definitely do that and at the same time, be cooler and make things happier and more livable for myself by going ahead and getting rid of the shirt, because that's one extra layer that I didn't need, and I just wore a jacket with no shirt. And eventually the neck brace came to pass, working against the Eliminators at that first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, where I took their finisher, Total Elimination, kind of a high-low kick, and wound up in a neck brace immediately, perpetually, forever. And the neck brace itself went from being just a garden variety standard, neck brace, just a soft cervical collar that you could get at your local drugstore. Nothing flashy, but of course that wasn't going to last. So all different patterned kind of stockings and pantyhose, and went to Hot Topic, which was big at the time, and found a lot of stuff. That and then different colored and patterned bow ties and everything else. So always jazzing it up and kind of doing the whole. Sometimes if I throw on TNA Impact, I see a Rockstar Spud.
Yep.
And it looks like he's either, picked up the ball that I found 15, 20 years ago and started running that into the end zone himself with some of his, but it goes back to, it's all, listen, sign guy Dudley himself had some unbelievable jackets, some patterned jackets that he had made up. He was becoming a fashion plate of a Dudleyville fashion plate. And it all goes back to stuff like, Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South, had some great gear as well, some beautiful kind of jackets and suits and whatnot. So it's, it's kind of everything's just, people taking, what they've seen and what they've liked and what they've admired and just kind of putting a twist on it. And the Quintessential Stud Muffin, was certainly that. I was certainly aware of historically, what I enjoyed seeing that made me so much of a fan that I eventually thought that it was my calling to get into this business. And if that kind of stuff got over with me to that level and to that extent, then that's the kind of stuff that I wanted to go ahead and put right back out there for another generation of fans in a different place and at a different time, so that maybe, they might enjoy that at least as much as I enjoyed what I did.
All right, we got another question from our live chat happening right now on Mixlr.com/Another Wrestling Podcast. Jesse Wilkes, all the way from Florida, he's asking, what is the best meal that you've had on the road? He said he's sorry, but he's a fat kid that wants to know about this weird crap. So is there any, do you remember a time from traveling around that like, wow, this place was great, or you just loved eating at this place? Yeah, man, I love going to a bunch of different spots. I'm a foodie too. I'm a fat guy. I'm a gourmand and an Epicurean. So I admire the question. And if he's in Florida, he should come to the seminar on Saturday from 11 to 3 at the Miami Airport Convention Center. And then we should speak afterwards about food, wrestling, and whatever else. And he should mention that he heard about it on the show. So the best meal that there's been so many. My favorite town used to be New Orleans. We were on 3 times a week on 2 different stations. Actually, I think we were on 5 hours a week on 2 or 3 different stations. I don't remember, but it was the town where we were on the most hours every week. And we went with live shows 3 or 4 times a year. So I loved New Orleans, and some of the food down there has to be high up on the list, right? So crawfish etouffee, stuff that you get kind of at the Acme Oyster House, po' boys and muffulettas, and just a lot of stuff in New Orleans is unbelievable. I've had some decent wings on the road. There was a place in Detroit, and I told them that I wanted the spiciest wings that they can make, and I wanted it to be something off menu and special, and I could tell it was almost like a rib. I could tell they just drenched it in paprika and crushed red pepper flakes and all different stuff. Anything that was red went onto the wings, anything at all. Either they liked me and admired the way I asked for the wings, or they were like, oh, really? He doesn't think they're going to be hot enough organically? We'll show him. He'll see. So I was sitting there, and I could see that at least 75% of the staff of the entire restaurant, certainly all of the kitchen, had come out to watch me enjoy the wings. Those were pretty spicy. Hot dogs in Chicago. I like those. I like the pizza better. I think I'm from Brooklyn, so I prefer good New York pizza on the whole, by and large, to good Chicago pizza. But New York's also known for their hot dogs. And I think that from a hot dog standpoint, Chicago has us beat, because you ask for a hot dog and you're going to get like a hot dog salad. Like you're going to get a whole, like it's an entree, and they got like tomatoes and onion and pickle and everything right in the bun. So I like that. The best food that I've ever had, it's so... You know what? In Miami, right, because I was there on a cruise, but I was also there for Mania a couple of years ago. Joe's Stone Crab, not to be confused with Joe's Crab Shack, which is a chain, right? That's all over the place. Not that, but a different place, a seafood and steak place called Joe's Stone Crab, which is one of the... it's been around for over 100 years. It's only open 6 months out of every year when it's in season. The other 6 months, they're doing stuff like weddings and whatnot. That place is unbelievable. Food, it's been fun with food. I was in Pittsburgh a year or 2 ago, got to go to Primanti Brothers and have a stuffed sandwich. Tommy DeNick's in Reading Terminal has some great, pork and broccoli rabe and sharp prove sandwiches. And, I used to eat every 21st lunch. Every third Saturday, I used to go to Tony Luke's near the ECW Arena. And the pepperoni pizza cheesesteak
there is ridiculous. So it's been fun with the food. I was blessed for my birthday dinner yesterday in the city in Manhattan.
Happy birthday too, by
Thank
the way.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, went to my favorite place to go for my birthday dinner, and that's Plataforma, which is a Brazilian barbecue spot, Rodizio Churrascaria. And now I don't even want to look at food. I mean, there's a great bagel shop here in Middletown, and I had something small there. I had like a Western omelet and Swiss on an everything. Forget it. I think I'm going to eat maybe one more time today. Something small during the pay-per-view or whatever, and I'm done. I gained 5 pounds from that Brazilian barbecue, and that's not uncommon.
Here's a question. I went to college in Philadelphia. You guys were based in Philadelphia at ECW.
Yeah.
The biggest question down there is Pat's or Geno's?
Yeah. No, I mean, I wasn't in that part of town as readily as I was in South Philly for the East.
Hey, yo.
Uh-oh.
Yo.
Prime time's
It's your
here.
boys, Shad, Gaspard, and JTG.
AKA.
The Fly Boys.
AKA.
The Timber Boys.
AKA.
The Timber Boys, Shad.
Timber Boys.
Because when we around, Timber.
Yo, Jay.
It's going down. Cheer.
Yo, Jay, there's a radio show going on right now while we signing autographs.
Another wrestling podcast.
It's another wrestling podcast?
It's another wrestling
It's just another wrestling podcast. Just another wrestling podcast. Yo, how many podcasts have we done in our careers?
Just another one.
Just another one. So if we just did one more, would that really make a difference? Just another one, Jay? Just another one?
Let's do another wrestling podcast.
Let's do another wrestling podcast. You know what? Let's take over another wrestling podcast. How about that?
You want to do this one or another
No.
wrestling podcast?
Let's take over this, another wrestling podcast.
No, let's take over another wrestling podcast.
Okay, we can take over this podcast right now and just make comments and just kick the host out right out. Podcast. Okay.
We were just taken over by Crime Time, jumping in on this.
Stud Muffin. Yeah. Brooklyn. Listen, us shoot Brooklynites have to stay together, you know what I mean? So if I'm going to get the mic stolen by anybody, it's got to be somebody else from Brooklyn, or else I won't let it happen.
Wow, hijacked none other than Crime Time, guys. Anything can happen here right now, but I think where I left it off with you was, being from Philadelphia, Pat's or Geno's. What do you like down there in Philly?
Yeah, man. I mean, I like them both. I think I get to Pat's more often than Geno's, but I don't really. I'm usually in South Philly. I'm usually near kind of the Oregon Diner and just and the ECW arena, just that part of town. So if you're down there and you don't go to Tony Luke's, it's a sin. So I grew up on Tony Luke's. Again, like every third Saturday, that was lunch. So if I have my choice between Pat's, Geno's, and Tony Luke's, it's just, I'm a creature of habit, kind of. So I guess I go with Tony Luke's. But Pat's and Geno's are both good.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Joel, you have been a few years ago. Maybe if you want to talk about MXW, because we have some DVDs for sale today. Maybe you could touch base a little bit about your involvement with MXW and all that fun stuff.
For sure, yeah. MXW was started in 2004, towards the end of 2004. So we are coming up in the next few weeks on the 10th anniversary of MXW. From 2004 to 2006, it was pretty active with a number of shows, 8 or 9 different events in that time, mostly in Connecticut, places like we started in Bristol, and then we've also done shows in Wallingford, Waterbury. We did a show in 2006, Capitol Collision, in Albany, New York, at the Washington Avenue Armory, which is a building. It used to be the WWF's Albany building back in the day, before the Pepsi Arena or Knickerbocker or whatever, back before the nationalization and syndication, back when WWF and WWF, late 70s, early 80s, up until that time, when it was a regional organization. That part of the region, Albany, their building there was the Washington Avenue Armory. So when we opened that up, MXW, it was the first time in about 25 years that there had been wrestling in that building. A building that when there was wrestling last there in the early 80s, you were seeing guys like Pedro Morales, Larry Zbyszko, that kind of thing. So a lot of history in that building. We opened that up. We were in Albany. Most recently, in 2010, we ran Toad's Place, another historic venue, more for music than for wrestling, but for rock music, a very historic New Haven venue right in Yale's college town. We ran there. And now, selling the fruits of the labor, perhaps for a relaunch when it comes to live events. But right now, very happy to be selling the DVDs online. And when you see me in person here at autograph signings and conventions, just like this one today, when you do buy one, it does come autographed by me. There is one show, Golden Quest, where Sanjay Dutt was one of the participants in the main event, which was advertised as a three-way, and for purposes of us going right up against the curfew, we needed to hybridize two matches. The three-way actually came up as a five-way. So one of the people in that match was Sanjay Dutt. He's autographed the copies that I have of that DVD right now. So when you buy one of those right now of Golden Quest, you get an autograph of Sanjay and an autograph of myself. And MXW, you can look us up online, mxwwrestling.net. You can look at, we have a Wikipedia page as well, so you can get some more on the history and the roster and some of the people. But, even some of the people that were so young in 2006, for example, that we used, let's say, on our undercard, even they are continuing and developing their careers, and they've moved on, and they're not even in the New England area anymore, near Connecticut or New York. And, actually, fun trivia is that the show coming up this Saturday in Miami that I mentioned that I'll be at for the seminar, the signing, and the show, Ronin Pro Wrestling, one of the matches on the show is Joey Bricco versus Kid Mikaze, but back in the day we were promoting him as Kid Mikaze. I want to say both of them are transplants where they're both originally from New England. They both now live in the Florida area, in Florida, and they are wrestling each other on the Ronin show. And it's not even happening because it's kind of an MXW, showcase. It's not an MXW match that I'm bringing in, with me as part of me being there as the MC and the ring announcer for the night. It just so happened that they were booked, in and of themselves against each other on that show, but they're each MXW alums going back to 8 years ago. So it's going to be a blast, not only obviously to catch up with them on a personal level, but to be working on the show with them, ring announcing that match, being in the locker room with them, all three of us bringing some MXW flavor to South Florida.
All right, well, guys, stick around. We're going to have a little bit more from Joel in a little bit, but right now we're going to toss it to Velvet Sky, who is joining us, so check it out. All right, we are here with TNA Knockout Velvet Sky. Velvet, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Now, Velvet, did your family ever think you were crazy for pursuing professional wrestling?
My family's crazy, so no. Actually, no. They actually thought it was really cool, I did go to college for about a year and a half, just to try to do the whole college thing, and I was there, and at that time, wrestling was at its, all-time highest peak, during the Attitude Era, and, it was just a great time for wrestling, so I left college, which my parents, they weren't happy about that. They thought I was crazy for leaving college, but once they saw me working so hard to pursue wrestling, because they knew it's what I wanted to do. Everybody had my back. They still do. They think it's so cool. They tell everybody, "Oh, that's my daughter. She's a wrestler," And I just didn't want I didn't want a normal lifestyle.
Sure.
I'm not normal to begin with, So normal's boring.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with it, but it's not for me. So.
All right. Now, TNA features some of the best women in pro wrestling today. What is it that makes the Knockout division stand out amongst the rest?
Well, as I've said in the past, we just have so much diversity when it comes to our knockouts. We just, there's, besides the beautiful people, there's really no two knockouts that are similar in look and moveset and, and we pride ourselves on just being hard hitting, no nonsense. Everyone's got their own thing going on. No two people look alike, wrestle alike, talk alike, move alike. So, and Jessica Havoc just joined us too. Yeah. So she's the big, muscle of the company. So we have a little bit of something for everybody.
All right. What's one thing that people may not know about you?
One thing that people may not know about me is that I love food.
You love food? What's
Junk
your favorite? What's your favorite junk food to go to?
Oreos.
Oreos? All
But
right.
my favorite like food to like chow down on. I love Mexican and Italian.
All right.
More carbs the better. Carbs are my friend.
Well, see, now it's hard to believe looking at you that carbs are your friend. So
I am just so on the go all the time and athletic, and just I don't sit still for too long, so I'm constantly burning it off.
All right. Well, yeah, you are from the Northeast, and you're featured on many shows up here in the Northeast. How does it basically feel to be the hometown hero in every town that you wrestle around in here?
It's kind of cool because it's cool to have the support of the area that I grew up in, and have everybody kind of recognize and do kind of a salute to me. So I mean, it's great when I never have to get on a plane too. I'm on a plane so much that to just have a local wrestling show or a local appearance is always a favorite thing of mine to do. So it's really cool, all the support I get from the hometown.
All right. At what moment did you feel like you made it in the pro wrestling business? Was there one specific moment that happened that you were like, wow, this is it?
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, I was doing the independent circuit for about 6 years, and you don't want to ever give up. Something like pursuing a career in professional wrestling, especially if it's been a dream of yours. But 6 years is a long time. And I remember one day I was having dinner at my parents' house, and I got a call from Terry Taylor, who he's no longer with TNA now, but at the time he was the one that kind of made the deal, with contracts and the talent. So he called me up. I was at my parents having dinner, and he said, not Velvet, I wasn't Velvet. He's like, Jamie, we want to offer you a contract. So, I mean, that was it. I mean, I was in the right place at the right time. They were looking to start a women's division. This was back in 2007. They didn't have a division yet. They were looking to get one up off the ground, and they were interested in me. So, I mean, that was my it moment. Like, I knew, like, all that hard work of being, on the indies, up and down the roads for 6 years, no job, quitting jobs here and there because they wouldn't let me do my shows. I mean, that was it. That was it for me.
All right, and now a little bit of a lightning round now. Just all we need is one word answers from you.
Okay.
Favorite female wrestler of all time?
Lita.
Favorite food?
Oh, everything. Italian and Mexican, though. I'll go with that. But everything.
A person who made you want to be a pro wrestler?
I'm going to go back and say Lita again, just because... I mean, I've been a fan of professional wrestling for a very long time, but it wasn't honestly until I saw Lita make her debut in WWF at the time. I mean, I was familiar with her stuff from ECW, but when she made her debut in WWF, she was just so inspiring to me, and that was when I said, you know what, I want to do what she does.
All right, and a favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh my God, I have so many, but a few favorites are old school Labyrinth, The Goonies, The Princess Bride, Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction's one. I have a lot of favorite everything. But those are a few of the favorites.
Hey, Velvet Sky, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
All right, guys, we are coming back live at Wrestling Spectacular 3D. Joining me in a few seconds, I have James Mitchell from ECPW. They're going to be in Newburgh next Saturday, September 27th, doing a show. We'll talk to him in a second about it. But if you guys want, we have the poster on our site on anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. You can check them out. All the event posters on the right-hand side of the page, on the bottom right. So be sure to check that out. But James, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
Pretty good, Credo. It's nice to meet you and nice to be on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us. So let's hear about the show coming up next week. Who's going to be there? What's happening? Where is it?
Well, we have the one and only Hall of Famer Jimmy Superfly Snuka going to be there as well. We have ECW original Jason Knight. Both those guys are going to be across each other in a tag team match. Jason Knight's going to be with the one and only reinforcer Andrew Anderson. And Jimmy Superfly Snuka, he's going to be teaming up with our Hudson Valley champion, Wreaking Havoc. And, we're going to be at the Newburgh Armory, as you said. And this is our second time there. We had a really good crowd when we were there with Hacksaw Jim Duggan earlier in the year. So we can't wait to see what we get this time.
Awesome. And I hear that you also have the now Vic Delicious Hale Collins as your tag team champions. Is that true?
You know what? I've been following these guys for years. Back when I tried to get into wrestling myself as a wrestler and now the commissioner, there was nothing I wanted more to get these guys on my roster. And being that they are now the tag team champions for this company makes me extremely happy. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing these guys as champions in New York.
Awesome. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about East Coast Professional Wrestling? And if you guys want to check out more, go to ecpw1.com. James, tell us a little bit more about your company, maybe. How long you guys been up? And any other shows besides next Saturday maybe you want to promote, or tell people where they can find more information?
Definitely. Well, ECPW, or East Coast Professional Wrestling, is owned by the one and only Gino Caruso. He's down in Lake Hiawatha, New Jersey, where our wrestling school is. He's the main promoter, and he has a bunch of different territories. We're back into the territorial days, And Hudson Valley, that's the area I run as commissioner for him. And you want to go ahead and take a look at us, you can find us on Facebook at ECPWHV. Same for Twitter, ECPWHV.weebly.com. That's our site. We've been around ourselves for 2 years now. About almost 3, and the main company, ECPW, has been around for 30 years.
Wow. Awesome, yeah, because, living in our area, in the Hudson Valley, all over from where we are, we have tons of fans, tons of original ECW fans, but, even your promotions, we have Snuka, Tony DeVito. Who else are you saying that was going to be there?
All right, well, Tony DeVito, he's been like my right-hand man. This guy's taken me under his wing and taught me everything there is, and he's been helping us get some of the other originals to come up and wrestle with us as Jason Knight is coming to Newburgh. He'll also be at our next show the next week at Walden Firehouse. That's a fundraiser for the Walden firefighters. And in that show, we're going to have Tito Santana and Jason Knight.
Arriba. There you go.
Yeah, there
awesome,
we go.
Man. Yeah, definitely. Well, guys, if you're listening right now, be sure to check out ecpw1.com. And we're going to be there. We're going to be there next Saturday, September 27th, I believe, right? Yep, September 27th. Yes. Don't want to say the wrong date. We will be there. Can't wait for the great show. Guys, if you're listening and you have nothing going on next Saturday, make sure you stop on over in Newburgh and check out ECPW. We will be there. But James, man, thanks for joining us. Anything else you want to tell your fans that are listening right now?
All right. Well, one, it was a pleasure, Credo, to finally get on your show.
Yeah,
and
man.
if you guys are also fans of House of Hardcore, as we said, the Now's going to be there. But we also have other House of Hardcore students going to be there. Rocco the Trash Man, Ben Ortiz, Joe Caldo, CJ Muir, Fungus. I try to use as many local guys as possible on my shows, as well as bring some of the names.
Very cool, man. And we will definitely be checking it out. So, guys, James, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, man. Guys, and coming up right now, we're going to be talking with Bobby Lashley, so check it out. First, I just want to say congrats on your recent Bellator win, and what can we expect from you there in 2015? More fights?
Yeah, I'm going to fight next month.
Oh, next month, all right.
Yeah, I think it was a good showing. They asked me something like right afterwards, and instead of doing no up and down, because that's what most fighters do. They'll fight and then take a little break off and get out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
Figure since I'm in good shape now, I'm going to go ahead and stay with it and jump right back into another fight.
All right, definitely. Great to hear. That's another question that brings me to is, does pro wrestling help you stay in shape for MMA fights, or, to a certain extent, at least like cardio-wise, does that help you, with training?
It doesn't so much help me stay in shape, but any kind of training is good training. It's going to keep you prepared. So, I take what I can out of wrestling, and I think the wrestling part is I get comfortable in front of the crowd, which some fighters have a problem with because when they get in front of those crowds, they'll do great in the gym, but once they get in front of those crowds, they might freeze up. And with pro wrestling and some of the crowds that I get in front of, I don't think I'm going to freeze up there, so it makes you feel a little more comfortable.
Sure, all right. Now, Bobby, you pretty much dominated pro wrestling and MMA as it is. Is there anything Bobby Lashley can't do? Is there one thing that you just hate doing?
Well, I'm sharpening up my golf game. That's one thing I'm doing. Hopefully I get decent enough to go and play with my dad, but that's my next obstacle.
All right.
But I try everything. If it's something that I have any kind of desire to do, I just jump into it. And there's a couple things that I want to try. Like as far as the fighting, I think MMA is going to be it. I'm really looking forward to doing maybe a pro boxing match. that's something maybe that we're going to look at maybe next year or something like that. But I'd like to do that before it's all said and done, and then whatever else gets thrown at me, I'm open.
All right. Now, out of all your highlights in your wrestling and MMA careers, is there one thing that you can look back at that's the highlight of, the careers combined? Is there one thing that you always look back at and you're like, you really love this moment?
I can't say there was not just one thing. There's been so many different things that I'm happy about, proud of, and fortunate to have the opportunity to do. So I don't know that I can say one particular thing. There's also so many big matches. I mean, everything that I'm doing right now, I'm having a really good time doing, and then all stuff that I did before, and the fighting. I think one thing that's going to be maybe a crowning achievement over everything if I can hold 2 belts at one time.
All right. What are your thoughts on being the first African-American ECW champion and so far TNA champion? Any thoughts about that?
I didn't know that part on TNA, but I guess
yeah,
I guess that is pretty cool. No, it's showing something different. I mean, it's I think it's good. I think what we had going on was kind of like a heel station, and we brought something different to TNA, and I think people really liked it. I mean, the ratings showed. So, I mean, just having an opportunity to show that and take that opportunity to do something big like that, man, I'm pretty excited about it. I know the ECW title, there's other people after me that have won it, but I think I'm going to be one to hold the TNA title for a while, and I might keep that title for some time. So I'm happy about it. I hope that I can do it justice.
All right. Now, I know we talked a little bit about MMA and pro wrestling and training and stuff, but, is there anything more challenging for you? Like, I mean, for training for MMA or training for pro wrestling, is there any aspect to each of those that might be more challenging than the other?
Not right now. Not right now because I own a gym, so I'm training every aspect of everything. So my jiu-jitsu is pretty strong right now. My boxing, my striking has been really good. I displayed it a little bit in my last fight. My wrestling is just my forte, so I don't think anything is too challenging. It's just the point of staying committed, staying in the gym and staying in camp for me because I have my kids and I'm a single father. So, so with that, sometimes after a fight, I kind of let myself go a little bit. As far as the conditioning aspect, let myself go a little bit. But yeah, I think that's the most challenging thing for me now is just getting a good schedule so that I can stay in the gym, stay prepared so that when fights come, I'm ready for them.
All right, and just lastly, you talked about your gym and stuff. Is there anything else that people out there could find you online or whatnot, find out, other things about you outside of pro wrestling and MMA, or what you're doing on the side? Besides, so you own a gym, right?
Yeah, I own a gym. I mean, I try to stay active with the Instagram thing. I just started to pick that back up. So Instagram is just my name, Bobby Lashley, and then I try to tweet as much as I can, and that's kind of getting people updates of what's going on. But I mean, I have a lot of things going on right now. There was a reality show that was pushed a little while back just to see how crazy my life is, and see the parallels between pro wrestling and MMA. So we might be doing something with that. Hopefully that pans out. And then I do all kinds of other business ventures right now. I've been flipping houses, and for me, it's just I do whatever I can. They always say when you have the opportunity to do something, you got to take it. And right now, I have the opportunity to do a lot of things, so I'm trying to do everything once right now.
A true Renaissance man. You're doing everything you can, right? So
I'm trying.
All right, Bobby. Thanks for joining us.
Oh man, anytime.
All right, Marks, we are live at Wrestling Spectacular 3D. If you're not listening live, maybe you're listening at a later recording of this, but you should be listening live because that's what we're doing. We're here live. We're with Joel Gertner today. A lot of other wrestling people today. We talked to Bobby Lashley, talked to Velvet Sky, but also, there's more people here, vendors that are happening that you can come buy some memorabilia at. And we had the pleasure to talk to last night with Renee Baghdad, who is, she's here with Ezekiel Jackson. Let's hear a little bit about what she had to say, guys. All right, joining me right now is Renee Baghdad she's the owner of Fan for Life Wrestling. Renee, thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Now, Renee, tell us, you've got to be a wrestling fan to get into this business, right? Now, can you tell us how you started up and how you started your whole business?
Well, actually, I got started in the wrestling business, honestly. My father used to take us to events up in Ottawa, and I had the privilege of meeting Andre the Giant when I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
And from that moment on, I was hooked.
All right. Now, well, tell us a little bit about what your company does. I mean, on the site, do you guys sell memorabilia too, and then also go to a lot of autograph signings?
Yeah, actually, how I started is I was doing the signing, spending the money, meeting the guys, collecting the stuff. I then decided that I could make a business of it, enjoy my passion, and so that's how it all got started. So I've been doing the vending portion of it, the whole action figures, autographs, the whole bit, for about 9 years. And about 6 years ago, I got into the promotion. So now I bring the wrestlers into different shows and do the vending as well. So.
All right, perfect. Now, where are you located? Now, you're in Massachusetts, or?
Yeah, I'm out of Georgetown, Mass., about a half hour north of Boston.
All right. Now, tell us, being a fan, being in the business, I mean, is there one thing happening today that you just hate seeing on TV, or is there anything that bothers you about wrestling today compared to what it was like growing up watching it?
Yeah, honestly, the whole PG thing. I grew up with the blood and the, and now that it's gotten kind of stale for me, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been hearing that from a lot of people too. I mean, hopefully something changes for the good pretty soon. But I mean, it's hard to tell what they're gonna do because from one point of view, it's like we know why for TV wise entertainment purposes. But yeah, I definitely feel that they're in a rut right now. But hopefully things will change. When did you get started? Actually, did you say how many years ago or?
9 years ago in the business.
9 years in the business, all right. And, I mean, have you been doing it every year, no problems since then? I mean, it's just been happening every year, right?
Yeah, it started out really slow. I was doing 1 to 2 shows a year. I had the honor to find some great promotion companies to work with, and now I'm doing, 5, 6, 7 shows a month sometimes. So it's really grown, and I do love the promotion part of it, working with the guys and, setting everything up. It's just, that's what's exciting for me.
Sure, definitely. Can you tell us what's maybe some of your favorite memorabilia that you have that you just don't want to sell?
Actually, my favorite piece right now that I have is an autographed WrestleMania 21 t-shirt. I bought it with a few autographs on it, and I've been able to collect everybody that was at WrestleMania 21, and that's my favorite piece of memorabilia.
Awesome.
That'll be buried with me, I think.
All right. Can you tell us, where can fans find you guys? If they're listening to us right now and they want to check out Fan for Life Wrestling, you're on Facebook, right?
I am at Fan for Life Wrestling LLC on Facebook. And I haven't gotten really good at it yet, but I've got my schedule posted there and some pictures and the like that they can check out.
Sure. So basically after today, you're at PWS last night and now you're at Middletown today. Can you tell us about any other future events coming up down the road?
Next week I'm going to be at a Pro Wrestling Academy in Hamden, Connecticut with Zach Gallen and Gregory Iron.
All right.
And then I've got a few shows coming up in October. I'm actually going to be at the New York Comic Con, as well as doing some shows in Baltimore and near Richmond. So.
All right. Renee, can you tell us, is there any wrestler out there today or legend out there today that you would really love to get to bring to a show and that you just haven't been able to yet?
You want me to be honest?
Yes, I want
Undertaker.
There you go. Hey, I'm sure we would all love to see him soon, and hopefully, he doesn't go into hiding or anything. Hopefully, he comes out for the fans sooner or later. So.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely on my list. I'm actually going to have the privilege of working with some pretty big names next year coming up. We haven't got contracts signed yet, but
all right.
They're in the works, so can't reveal them just yet. But.
Sure, yeah. We'll entice people to go to the website to stick around and see who those names are. So. All right, joining us right now we have Ezekiel Jackson, former Intercontinental Champion and former ECW Champion, the last ECW Champion. All right, Zeke, which title run meant more to you, being the Intercontinental Champion or the last ECW Champion?
Again, that to me is like having two beautiful kids, and it's hard to choose.
Yeah.
Just because the IC title, I had it for 2 months. The ECW title basically ended the night I owned it. I'd fight with people on the internet all day as to, am I worthy of being called a champ? The last ECW champion, because I'm not real ECW. So for me, it's 2 kids, and I treat them just the same. I'm not trying to take anything away from being the world champ for ECW, but the IC champ has meant so much to so many people. So it'd be hard for me to say, well, one is better. So I treat them both the same, man.
All right. Now, what are your thoughts? So there are many factions that have been in wrestling, from NWO, DX. You were in the Core. What are your thoughts on the Core? And do you think they would have been a bigger faction if it was happening today?
The Core was, I felt like they rushed it, because it was straight. Most of the guys from the Nexus and myself jumped in there. And I just felt it was like, okay, let's put them on SmackDown and see what happens. So I think had we had the same kind of backing the way the Nexus did, we could have done well, because we started with me, Body Slamming, the Big Show. We were going after Edge and all these different guys, and then it just, we're fighting each other, and then it was done. So I think had we gotten the backing, it could have rivaled anybody, because you had your freaking Wade and myself, the powerhouse. You had Ray that could, go. You had the high flyer Justin, and you had Heath. So given the opportunity to unleash what we could have, I think we could have done amazing things today, to say face with the Shield or the Wyatt family. I think the Core could have matched anybody, given the opportunity.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Also, with your stint with WWE, too, you were working with Brian Kendrick. Did you guys enjoy working together? Do you think, any thoughts you could let us know about working with him?
Kendrick made it. First of all, Kendrick chose me out of a bunch of guys that chose to come up to work with him. So for me, that automatically earns my respect. He gave me the opportunity to come and be his advisor. And we had fun, man. He taught me, I learned a lot from the guy traveling with him, just being around him. I saw him maybe about a couple of months ago, and he's still it's just like we just didn't spend any time together.
Sure.
Like we hadn't spent any time apart, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So he's automatically a family member to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Out of anybody from the past or present, who would your dream opponent be? Who would have loved to face, or even if they're going right now, who would your dream match be?
The Rock.
The Rock.
I was a Rock fan. When I first started doing my finisher, the Book of Ezekiel, it was similar to the Rock Bottom, but I never went down with it. And he did so much in such a short period of time. And then, they came back after. So for me, it was really, really cool. It would be really cool to have worked in,
All right.
Because, I think I never got the chance to really do as athletic as I can with the WWE, because I was working the big guy thing, but given the opportunity, I would love to go full-fledged with that, man.
All right, cool. Now, recently I read that you were working with Lucha Underground. Can you tell us about maybe your plans with them, and will you be with them for a little bit now?
I really can't talk much about it.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
All right.
And it's going to, it comes out on the LA Network on October 8th.
Okay.
Within a couple of weeks, we'll be able to talk more about it. But it's something. The ties are not in. You know what I mean? You get the high flyers. You got myself, who's a monster. You got a lot of people that,
Sure.
It would be something to give it a chance. It's, if you're a wrestling fan, Wednesday nights are free. Why not? Because for me, as a fan, I want to see everything on TV. That's how I do it, wrestling. You know what I mean? That's me. If I have to record something to watch something, I'll do it. I'm not with WWE anymore, but I'm still a fan.
Sure.
I did a little short stint with TNA, but I'm still a fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I get a chance to watch ROH, I'll watch. If it's, whatever, if I'm a wrestling fan, so I'm not going to sit around and say, like, this is better and this is worse and this is horrible. Because if you do that, that means you're saying that the guys with their talent, whether the WWE talent or just some local talent, you're saying you're taking away from these guys' training and their respect for the business, and that's me. I respect anyone who's willing to step into a ring with the proper training.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So for me, I give everybody a shot, man. And that's, give Lucha Underground a shot.
All right. And my last question for you is, given your opportunity to return to the WWE, going right now, who would you see yourself facing? Now, not like a dream match, but with the current, guys they have now, is there anybody that you would just love to mix it up with?
On the main roster.
Yeah.
I would love to have gone against Triple H. Hey, unless you're talking younger guys.
Mm-hmm.
If there's younger guys, I would definitely see myself in Roman Reigns having a fun time.
All right.
We got a chance to do a couple of practice matches back in that. It was fun. So,
is there anything going on? Maybe you maybe tell your fans where to follow you, or anything with social media, or anything coming up that you want to let everybody know about?
Well, with my website is everything is Physique, PHYSZEKE.com. That's my website. My Twitter is Physique. My Instagram is Physique, and my Facebook is Physique Jackson. I just keep an eye out. There's a lot of stuff coming. I enjoyed 7 years of WWE. No hard feelings. It's a business thing, and I'm ready. I'm just keep an eye out for Rick now. You know what I mean?
All right, guys, we are live again from Wrestling Spectacular 3D in Middletown, New York. We just talked to a bunch of people. We had Bobby Lashley on, Velvet Sky, Ezekiel Jackson. A lot of things happened, but more importantly, we have none other than Joel Gertner sitting right next to me. Joel, welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Wow, what a day here today. You're meeting and greeting your fans, shaking hands, kissing babies, all that fun stuff, right? You enjoy this fan experience and talking to your fans that have seen you through the years?
Yeah, it's great to see. You got to kiss babies, too, because remember, I started my ECW run in this town 19 years ago this weekend, so forget the babies, man, but some of these, like, high school senior people or, like, college freshmen, these could be my babies that I just haven't known about, you know what I mean? So you got to almost kiss everybody just to be safe.
Well, there you go. What a show today, though. I mean, it's great to see a lot of these guys still around here, getting to meet some of our heroes of yesterday and today. A lot of things happened, but more importantly, Joe, I just want to get some comments from you about things that are happening in the wrestling world today, and maybe, from fans hearing your point of view, since you've been in the business and are in the business, just to get your thoughts about it. And I think one of the biggest things I want to talk about briefly is CM Punk. I can't remember in recent times where somebody with that big of a name, that big of a following, just took their ball and went home. And I think if anybody remembers, Steve Austin did something similar, but he came back. And from the looks of it, at least right now, CM Punk's probably gone. And what are your thoughts about that and just leaving behind everything you worked so hard for to build up and just to walk away?
Sometimes I'll look at science fiction, and I see things in science fiction that they're fiction, but maybe only because enough time hasn't gone by yet for them to become fact.
Yeah.
And CM Punk, even though it isn't this kind of 3-month, 6-month, 9-month absence, even though it's more prolonged than that, doesn't mean that he'll never come back. Never say never, but he is a very smart businessman. He's very smart in general. Built up his nest egg, built up his money, I'm sure, and invested wisely, has other projects. One of the few and rare people that came in and worked in WWE under the ring name that he had already established a tremendous following for before he got there, but still, wrestled as CM Punk in WWE. So with CM Punk, it's all about business. And as he's proving, he wants it to be the kind of thing that benefits everybody and certainly benefits him, and he wants to take care of himself. That's, a smart way of doing business. And again, for people who might be upset with him or think that it's, a knock on him or a character flaw that he's not there, he's obviously doing what it is that he wants to do, and because he can do it, and he's taking care of himself, and, I'm sure he has his reasons, whatever they are. For example, I don't know that CM Punk is burnt out on wrestling, or that he physically feels like he needs a prolonged time to heal. I don't know that it's either one of those things or a combination of both. But if it is that, the argument can be made that it's very, very wise for him to wait till he's 105%, because that's what the fans expect from him anyway. It's very wise for him to wait for that passion to return, that fire to come all the way back. Again, I have no inside track. I don't know, but hypothetically, if those are reasons why he's not there right now, then I don't know that that's the worst thing in the world, either for him or for the company. I think they've got a lot of stuff built up and a lot of strong characters and gimmicks and storylines right now. So, the CM Punk thing, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And when I say how it plays out, we can already tell that I'm not talking about 1, 2, 3 months from now, but 1, 2, 3 years from now, as we follow it long term. Will he ever come back? If he does come back, how long from now? And if so, why? Those will all be things, those are things that interest me. But on a week-to-week basis, I don't sit, as a fan waiting to see if this will be the week where he shows back up on Raw. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, again, there's a good reason. And as long as he's keeping himself busy and being, a productive member of society, more power to him.
Sure, definitely. And we have another question from the chat from Jesse Wilkes from Florida, which will be next week in Miami we'll get to. But he's asking, do you think having the writers so involved in the WWE gimmicks is hurting the athletes in the long run? I mean, all in all, I guess, do you think that the fate of their character sometimes lies in the writers' hands, or how do you feel about that?
Probably not the best person to ask. When I worked for WWE in 2005 for the ECW, the first One Night Stand pay-per-view, there was writing, and it was the writers were working on it, and we got scripts and everything, and that was really, by and large, most of what I've done. I've done a handful of appearances for TNA as well. Scripts, certainly for the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view, there was kind of a script or a bullet point sheet or whatever for that too. For ECW, there were no scripts. Everybody was just kind of, it was a close enough, tight-knit. Everybody knew what page we wanted to be on, what page maybe we were hoping to get to the next week. But we certainly knew when the next week came that we were all in the same book, and we all knew, So it's when it comes to writing, I mean, I can tell you from a character development standpoint that, it's good to have the talent involved, especially because, in WWE, I think they're at their best when the talent is simply an extension of who they truly are. You go back to the Attitude Era, and that's really what's touted and flaunted quite a bit, is that it was really, to an extent, Austin being Austin, Shawn being Shawn, Kevin Nash, but, all of it from that time was just people playing a heightened, more kind of intensified version of themselves. If too many people, or if people who don't have a wrestling background are getting involved, can that be completely detrimental? Not necessarily. As long as it's entertaining and as long as the fans are interested in everything, is logical and gets you to make that emotional connection and that emotional involvement. But, definitely the wrestlers themselves, the talent, they should certainly have a say. The agents now they're not even agents, right? They're producers, and they're all wrestling people. Your Michael Hayes types, your Arn Andersons. These people should definitely be in the loop, and I know they are, because, these are the people who know from experience, and they know firsthand what it takes to sell tickets and to put people in those seats. So I think definitely it's not so much a case of, writing staffs or people with mostly a Hollywood resume or a bachelor's degree in TV. That's not so much detrimental, but you definitely do want to include wrestling people, and you want to include for sure the wrestlers themselves.
All right. There's so many things happening today. One of the things is the streak ending, and with that ending, a lot of people were upset. A lot of people were shocked. It was one of the big things that people just thought would never end, and well, it ended. With that said, now with Brock Lesnar being champ, and some people say he's the part-time champ, do you think by Taker losing this historic streak, if you will, do you think what are your thoughts on it? Basically, is what I'm trying to say. And then from how it's playing out now with having Brock as the champ, do you think it paid off or what?
I do, and seems like Undertaker was very much involved in the passing of the torch. And to his loyal fans that are devoted fans that were hoping that the streak would never come to an end, that's a testament to all of the great work that he did. Him passing the torch is a testament to time-honored traditions, to his love for the business. Him passing it to Brock Lesnar is a testament for what he thought Brock Lesnar could bring and Brock's potential to be an even bigger monster heel, if that were possible. And what Brock has done in the wake of beating the streak has proven that to be the case. So just, all across the board, I think if you were going to end the streak the way it did, I think it hasn't been wasted, it hasn't been for naught, and it hasn't been squandered. I think the fact that Brock is the one in 21-1 does put more heel heat on Brock. It intensifies everything that he's involved with now, just like the part-timer stigma is great too, because they're playing on it to get you to hate him even more. If you hate the fact that your champion right now is a part-time champion, that's psychologically the desired intent and effect of what they're trying to bring about. So they want Brock Lesnar to be the one in 21-1 who ended the streak. They want him to be the part-timer. They want him to be the ex-UFC and NCAA champion who did make some of his name outside WWE, so quote-unquote, doesn't need to be there. All of these things play in Brock's favor in making him not just a monster that he is physically, but psychologically in making him a heel. Because you can't be a monster heel without being both a monster and a heel. And having him beat Taker for the streak definitely intensifies his being a heel and makes him more of an effective one. I think that's going great. And I'm glad, because the streak was such an important part of the history of the company and of WrestleMania, certainly, that to have had it end and to have had that not be something that played in the favor of the future of the company would have definitely been a shame.
All right. Do you still watch WWE today? Are you still a fan of all of wrestling, or everything you watch, daily? Do you keep up with it, kind of?
I do.
Yeah?
I'll always be a fan. I think I'll always be in the business, and at the same time, I'll always be a fan. I was over talking to Greg Valentine about 10 minutes ago when we were on break, and I told him, still in the business, still a big mark, doing things like this now on one side of the table. And 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, was doing stuff like this when I was just watching. Still a wrestling fan, still a historian, still an archivist. And I think it's always going to be that way. I'm always going to have a love and a passion for professional wrestling.
Now, Joel, do you think with, Brock beating the streak, having the WWE Championship, who's going to be the one to beat him? Whoever beats him, that's got to be ultimate, babyface, or you're going to get, you're beating the guy who beat the streak, whoever gets that win next to be the champion. Hopefully it's somebody new, right? A new up-and-comer, right?
Hopefully, sure, and I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. Time will tell, and there's no telling, and I'm not the person who can tell you. I think what's important is there was a time when the title itself didn't matter, especially in comparison to how it might have mattered in years past. And maybe that's not, even at times when the business was somewhat strong, maybe interest in the title wasn't, but people were interested in different things, but whatever. But the point of it is, that there's been kind of a school of thought and a complaint. It doesn't matter who the title's on. It doesn't matter who the champion is. The belt changes too frequently, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And instead, let's not even think about the title itself, any of them, but let's think about that without a title necessarily, right? I mean, because it's not all about the title. In essence, also the streak itself, right? Yeah. Because Brock was the one that beat Taker, right? Not for a title, but for the streak. Now, who is it that's going to beat Brock? And now we're talking about who's going to make their mark, intensify their interest, raise the plateau of their career and their accomplishments. Who is that going to be, and why? Because they beat Brock. And why? Because he beat Taker at WrestleMania for the first time to end the streak. So without even necessarily looking at a title, just looking at the lineage of the streak, we're sitting here debating.
Yeah.
And the point of that is not even all in figuring out who it will be or why that beats Brock, but just the fact that in and of itself we're having that debate shows, I think, that going back a couple of questions, how important they've made it that the streak was beaten. And I think that's important.
All right. So many things today. Now, also, if we could touch briefly about the PG era, if you will. I mean, you came from a time where, it was hardcore. Blood, guts, all that fun stuff. It's been toned down a bit for obvious reasons with the kid aspect involved and whatnot. But, do you feel that the PG environment now is just kind of, killing the product a little bit to where, do you think it's going to be able, or do you think they're going to have to change it up pretty soon to get more of that audience back, or what?
I think they're changing it up now. I think there have been little things that have happened even in recent weeks that, it's gonna... I don't think they need to shock the system. I don't think it needs to be as adult-oriented, if that's not the right word to use. But I don't think it's going to be as adult-oriented as it once was. But the thing is...
Well, if you guys are tuning in, something's happening live at the show. There's an event happening here right now, guys. Something's happening. We don't know what. A lot of emergency technical people are coming in and out. I believe somebody collapsed from what it looks like.
There's a medical event going on.
So we can't tell what's happening, but if you hear any noise going on, that's what's happening. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. That's it for our show today. But we will be playing this show later on so everybody can hear. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. And be sure to check out anotherwrestlingpodcast.com, and thanks for clicking in.